June 17, 2024. Off Ayungin Shoal in the West Philippine Sea. A Philippine Navy boat, the Uniza May 4th, delivers rice and essentials to stranded soldiers aboard the BRP Sierra Madre, a rusting World War II vessel serving as Manila's strategic outpost. Chinese Coast Guard ships approach, unleashing high-pressure water cannons. The blasts damage the hull, injure sailors, and scatter supplies. Seaman First Class J. Tariella radios for help as injured crew members brace for more. This confrontation marks the beginning of a new form of conflict in these waters, where information, not ammunition, becomes the main weapon. While global audiences viewed the grainy footage, Chinese state media told a different story. Outlets like Global Times and CGTN described Philippine provocateurs invading sovereign waters. They presented altered maps and anonymous voices, alleging that Manila's mission was part of a covert U.S. operation. In this digital era, the story often determines who holds power. Welcome to Discovering the Earth. Today, we count down the top 10 ways Chinese media targets the Philippines, uncovering the strategy behind these campaigns, from deepfakes to alliance narratives, and examining their impact on sovereignty and regional stability. Drawing on investigative reports, international watchdogs, and frontline analysis, this is not about blame. It is about understanding the information war affecting millions of Filipinos and their partners abroad. The dispute reaches beyond Philippine shores, tied to South China Sea trade and resource routes, and the U.S.-Philippine alliance solidified by the Mutual Defense Treaty of 1951. With facts as a shield, this countdown reveals how Chinese media aims to reshape the region's future. Let's begin. In 2016, fishermen from Palawan shared their experiences before an international tribunal in The Hague. The decision rejected China's 9-dash line as invalid under international maritime law, upholding the Philippines' 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone. For many, it was a significant legal victory, granting rights to fishing, exploration, and navigation. Today, Chinese outlets such as Xinhua and People's Daily downplay or deny the ruling's legitimacy. They amplify headlines asserting that the arbitration was an illegal farce and reference the decision as a scrap of paper. This narrative, pushed through hundreds of state-supported online posts, steadily undermines the legal basis for Filipino claims to waters like Scarborough Shoal and Second Thomas Shoal. For the Philippines, these zones represent opportunities for food, energy, and economic security valued at tens of billions of dollars. The United States acknowledged the ruling, emphasizing its importance for regional balance. Public support inside the Philippines remains strong, with most citizens insisting on their maritime rights. However, repeated challenges and narratives can erode public understanding over time. Marine resources and sovereignty become less secure each time the facts are muddled. The BRP Sierra Madre was intentionally grounded at Second Thomas Shoal 30 years ago as a symbol of Philippine sovereignty in contested waters. Routine patrols and resupply missions occur under scrutiny from Chinese forces. Chinese state media routinely characterizes these efforts as provocative or aggressive. Broadcasters depict Philippine vessels as threats, reversing the narrative even when Filipino sailors are harmed by water cannons or other interventions. This framing often relies on claims from unidentified sources and asserts that patrols are covert operations backed by U.S. support. These narratives seek to justify Chinese responses while discrediting lawful patrols meant to defend Philippine territory. For the broader region and for overseas Filipinos, these confrontations affect commerce, migration, and stability. With international observers and global partners advocating for greater transparency, real-time documentation by the Philippine Coast Guard continues to counter attempts at misinformation. Following the 2022 Philippine elections, leadership shifted from Rodrigo Duterte's China-friendly approach to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s reinvigorated alliance with the United States. This transition has become a point of focus for Chinese media, which amplify narratives of discord and instability. By highlighting political divisions and promoting voices sympathetic to Beijing, state-run outlets present the Philippines as a nation unable to maintain a consistent foreign policy. Media stories reference past gentlemen's agreements and frame new defense initiatives as evidence of an unstable government, stirring internal debate and reducing the country's negotiating power in ASEAN. These tactics echo past efforts to pressure the Philippines through targeted trade measures and media campaigns. While official data indicates public support for stronger alliances and adherence to the rule of law, internal divisions remain a vulnerability that external narratives continue to exploit. The partnership between the Philippines and the United States dates to 1946. Joint military exercises, such as Balikatan, underscore defense commitments and regional cooperation. However, Chinese state media increasingly frame the Philippines as dependent upon and endangered by its alliance with the United States. Social media, online commentators, and news clips depict joint patrols and military installations as provocative, suggesting that Manila's cooperation with Washington heightens tensions and risks regional conflict. China's strategy is clear: weaken confidence in the alliance to limit U.S. influence and expand its own reach in the Asia-Pacific. Despite these efforts, polling shows significant Filipino support for security cooperation. Still, misinformation and repeated attacks on the alliance test its resilience and can plant seeds of doubt in segments of the population. In 2016, new infrastructure deals marked a pivot in Philippine foreign relations. Chinese investments in airports, railways, and other sectors followed promises of mutual prosperity and win-win outcomes. Chinese media consistently highlight the benefits of these programs, often overlooking or downplaying concerns about debt, delays, and transparency. The Belt and Road Initiative, positioned as a catalyst for regional development, is frequently presented as a superior alternative to Western assistance. This narrative can obscure the complexity of economic engagement and the risks that have affected other countries involved in similar projects. Philippine and U.S. officials, meanwhile, emphasize transparency and accountability. Nonetheless, positive messaging about Chinese investment benefits remains a persistent theme in Chinese communications. In July 2024, digital attacks intensified against Philippine leadership. Sophisticated deepfakes targeting President Marcos Jr. circulated online, attempting to discredit his stance on the South China Sea. Investigations traced these campaigns to networks with links to Beijing. The intent: erode trust in leadership and create confusion amid critical policy decisions. This mirrors tactics seen in earlier periods, targeting reputations as part of a broader strategy. Fact-checkers and international agencies responded swiftly to debunk and remove manipulated content. While surveys show a majority of Filipinos continue to support their leaders, persistent digital assaults highlight the evolving risks posed by misinformation in the region. Social media platforms are a primary battleground for influence in the Philippines, where a large portion of the population is active online. Coordinated networks of bots and proxies promote pro-China content, amplify false narratives, and attack critics using misleading tactics. During the 2020 pandemic lockdowns, groups presented as Filipino supporters praised Chinese policies and criticized Western alternatives. These operations, sometimes linked to organized networks beyond Philippine borders, have undermined public trust in digital news sources. Online manipulation exploits vulnerabilities in digital literacy and information verification. International watchdogs and technology companies have implemented measures against these campaigns, but efforts to influence opinions through coordinated online action continue. Incidents involving water cannons, such as those off Scarborough Shoal, have become familiar to Philippine fishers and the wider public. State media in China portray these episodes as justified acts of self-defense, despite documented injuries and damage. Over 100 incidents have been logged by Philippine authorities since 2012, resulting in substantial economic losses. These aggressive interventions, rationalized as lawful enforcement, seek to normalize violations and cement de facto control over disputed areas. While the United States has reinforced its security commitments, consistent documentation and eyewitness accounts remain critical in countering these narratives. Trust in local and international reporting serves as a vital defense against attempts to recast aggressive actions as routine. The Chinese Filipino community plays a significant role in the Philippines' social and economic life. In recent years, media serving this community has seen increased influence from Chinese official messaging. Reports indicate that programming featuring Belt and Road Initiative promotions and other positive portrayals of China has become more prevalent. These strategies build connections that can subtly shape perceptions and sway certain policy opinions. The influence of diaspora-targeted content extends to communities abroad, affecting perspectives on regional security and economic issues. Ongoing dialogue and critical examination by media professionals and community leaders are needed to maintain balance. In international forums like ASEAN summits, the Philippines has called for unified action and a binding regional code of conduct. However, Chinese media regularly depicts Manila's efforts as reckless or destabilizing, aiming to cast the Philippines as isolated from its neighbors. These narratives attempt to drive wedges among Southeast Asian countries and prevent collective responses to maritime challenges. Instances of coordinated spins are tracked by think tanks, with the goal of highlighting division rather than cooperation. Maintaining unity among ASEAN members and broadening alliances remains essential, in counteracting efforts to single out and weaken the Philippines diplomatically. As evening falls over Manila Bay, the scope of this media campaign becomes clear. The clash over the West Philippine Sea is not only one of ships and troops but also of information, perception, and influence. Every headline and post carries potential to shape outcomes, locally and globally. Legal victories, strong alliances, and an informed public remain central to preserving Philippine interests. In a world where one narrative can influence policy and even sovereignty, vigilance and clarity are essential. Sharing knowledge, questioning claims, and upholding truth give individuals and communities the tools to respond. Stay curious and engaged. If you found this analysis meaningful, share it with a friend or family member. Subscribe to Discovering the Earth for future explorations into geopolitics and current affairs. Leave your thoughts and questions in the comments. Together, we remain informed and resilient.